Get ready for another episode packed with heart-stopping wrecks, wild police pursuits, and everything in between. Dremden was running errands and enjoying good weather when an oncoming SUV turned across his path, and there was nothing he could do to avoid a collision. Amazingly, this collision happened 100 feet from a fire station, so first responders were on the scene in about 30 seconds. The only injuries sustained were minor, but Dremden found out later the other driver wasn't insured. Sadly, his 2012 Ford Mustang was totaled by the collision, and fixing it would have cost $24,000, which meant it was totaled. Thankfully, his own uninsured motorist coverage paid him $17,000 for the car a week later. After this collision, he upgraded all three of his family's vehicles with high-quality front and rear dash cams. He said, "Never leave home without insurance and a dash cam." Aaron was driving down the passing lane of a Tennessee highway when the driver of a Ford pickup crossed the highway without yielding and clipped the front of Aaron's pickup. Can you guess what make of pickup Aaron drives? At first, it seemed like the Ford driver was not going to stop, but when Aaron started following him, he finally pulled over. Aaron told us that when the other driver came back to talk to him, he was very angry, but Aaron just pointed at his dashcam and he immediately became humbled. His insurance provider accepted full liability for the collision. Brandon was driving his daughter home from school when he saw a skateboarder grinding on a retaining wall lose his board as it rolled into the street. Brandon saw it and stopped, but an SUV driver to his left did not. After the SUV ran fully over the skateboard, it somehow looked totally fine. The skateboard, that is. We're not sure about the SUV. Brandon told us this was the first dashcam video he saved after upgrading to this dashcam. It's the dashcam we recommend in the video description, by the way, and he sent us a whole bunch of videos from it. We've got another one he sent us coming up later in this episode. Uriel was driving his Mercedes-Benz C-Class down a Maryland highway when the driver of a red Dodge Charger wasn't paying attention. Watch what happened when he finally noticed that traffic ahead of him was stopping. The Charger driver swerved abruptly into Uriel's lane, clipping the front of his Mercedes. The impact destroyed Uriel's radiator, totaling the car. The Charger driver was found responsible for the collision, so his insurance provider will be paying Uriel for his wrecked Mercedes. He told us this was his first collision ever. Obviously, nobody enjoys being involved in a vehicle collision, but Uriel told us he's at least excited to be able to send his dashcam footage to Wham Bam. I guess every cloud really does have a silver lining. Oscar was headed to a video game store with his friend Lewis when they were suddenly passed by a minivan on the shoulder with one of the front tires completely missing. The reason for the Honda Odyssey's reckless pass immediately became apparent as multiple law enforcement vehicles followed after it in hot pursuit. Oscar told us he later found an article about the police chase on a local news site. He said CBS 17 reported that the fleeing driver actually lost control and wrecked head-on into a truck. Thankfully, there were no serious injuries. Michael was on his way to work when he merged into the right lane in preparation for his upcoming right turn. Watch what happened when he approached a gap in the waiting traffic.
Don't cross, you can't see.
Thankfully, Michael had already been slowing down for the SUV entering the road. His foot was on the brake pedal and he was able to stop quickly when the pickup pulled across his path without warning. Jose's rear dashcam captured the moment an SUV cut through a gap in traffic before getting T-boned by another SUV. It's almost the same situation that we saw in the last video, but from a different perspective. Jose pulled over and offered a copy of his dashcam video to the driver who'd T-boned the turning SUV. He told Jose later that it helped him with his insurance claim, and the other driver was deemed responsible for the collision. Here's another video from Brandon. He was taking his son, daughter, and 2 of their friends home after a Renaissance fair when an SUV exiting the fair parking lot, which should have turned right, went off the road.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah, talking about drunk.
Not only did the SUV driver turn the wrong way, they went off the road and down an embankment. Incredibly, they managed to get back onto the road and continue, leaving the nearby police officer directing traffic shaking his head. Caleb was taking his wife and kids grocery shopping after church when he stopped behind another driver waiting to turn left. Suddenly, he realized the SUV approaching from behind wasn't slowing down, but it was too late. A Richland County Sheriff's deputy witnessed the collision and quickly responded to make sure everyone was okay. It took 2 months for pain in Caleb's arm, shoulder, and leg to subside after he tensed up before the impact. Thankfully, his wife and kids hadn't been similarly affected, and pain and soreness was the extent of his injuries. The SUV driver's insurance provider paid $1,800 to repair Caleb's Toyota Sienna. This submitter was driving her Toyota Yaris when she watched the driver of the car in front of her blatantly run a red light after the protected left turn lights turned green. Obviously, we can't be sure, but this sort of thing usually happens when a driver is distracted by their phone and proceeds into the intersection after seeing traffic next to them start to move. Thankfully, in this case, the red light runner somehow managed to thread between oncoming cars turning left without causing any collisions. Put the phone away, people. Crushing those candies can wait. Jake was proceeding through a traffic light after it turned green when the driver of an SUV forced his way through traffic before T-boning another SUV he hadn't seen coming. Jake followed the 2 drivers into a parking lot so he could provide the victim with a copy of his dashcam footage. He told us the responsible driver tried to convince the victim not to call 911, which is always a bad sign. Hopefully the victim did not follow this advice, as getting a police report is usually very important to the insurance claim process. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured in the collision. Kaylee was driving her Dodge Journey when she spotted a Tesla behaving badly. Watch what the driver of this Model Y did after they ended up in the wrong lane to make a left turn.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Yep, they just turned anyway. We like to say that bad drivers never miss their exits, but I guess it's also true that they never miss their turns. Leo was taking his sister to get a birthday coffee when he was rear-ended by a Toyota driver who hadn't noticed that traffic ahead was stopping. After the Toyota rear-ended Leo, the impact shoved his Chrysler into another Toyota ahead of him before the Toyota behind him was also rear-ended by a Kia. In total, 4 vehicles were involved in this collision. All 4 drivers traded information, and thankfully nobody was injured. All 4 vehicles remained drivable. The driver of the Toyota that had rear-ended Leo was found responsible for causing the collision. His insurance provider paid Leo $4,300 to fix his Chrysler and rent him a car for 8 days while repairs were being done. Amazingly, Leo told us he was inspired by our videos to install his dashcam just a week before this. Jason was getting ready to pass some slower drivers. As he accelerated to about 60 miles per hour on a road with a speed limit of about 45 miles per hour, the pickup ahead of him cut him off, forcing him into a gore point to avoid a collision. Jason swerved and braked to prevent a collision, then continued on his way home. He's just glad he didn't hit the pickup, and he wanted to shout out his mechanic Peter for upgrading his brakes. Tim had to stop for a Jeep driver making a left turn across traffic when he was rear-ended by another Jeep. Tim pulled off the road, as did the driver of the Jeep that had hit his Volkswagen Jetta, which is likely totaled. The Jeep was also probably totaled, as Tim said the radiator was striking the fan. Thankfully, the only injuries were minor. Angel was sitting at a red light and jamming out to his music when he watched a Porsche driver lose control while taking a corner and drive up onto a traffic island, nearly colliding with multiple other vehicles.
What the?
After certainly damaging 2 wheels, the Porsche driver continued, likely without learning any lesson about trying to show off skills one does not possess. Angel told us he got the dashcam we recommend after being involved in a collision, and he thinks they should be mandatory for all vehicles. As Derek approaches this intersection, take a look at the road markings indicating traffic in his lane can proceed straight or turn left. The driver of an SUV in the lane next to him evidently didn't see the arrows. As Derek made his legal left turn, the SUV driver turned into his lane, sideswiping his Honda Accord. When Derek spoke with the driver of the Toyota, she claimed he'd turned too early and that the collision was his fault. Derek didn't tell her he had a dash cam. He later sent this footage to her insurance provider, and they eventually accepted responsibility. Fixing his Accord cost just over $1,000 US. He told us this is a good reminder for everyone to get a dash cam, but it's also a great reminder to always turn into the correct lane. This collision could have been avoided if the SUV driver had simply turned into the closest lane. Gecko was on his way to work one morning when the driver of a semi-truck failed to yield as he entered a roundabout, forcing Gecko to take evasive action. Our submitter told us he stopped to catch his breath, but thankfully this was only a close call. Remember, traffic already in the roundabout has the right of way. You need to stop for them. Don't ever make them stop for you. This submitter watched an oncoming driver run a red light before getting hit by a pickup truck pulling a trailer. After the Chevy pickup struck the GMC SUV, our submitter told us both drivers appeared unhurt as he continued past them. This is actually his second time being featured on Wham Bam Dashcam. His first featured submission was eerily similar to this one. We'll put a link to that episode at the end of this one in case you haven't seen it yet. This submitter witnessed a very different kind of Honda bump. Keep watching and you'll see what I mean. The driver of a Honda Odyssey bumped another driver's gas door closed in a random act of kindness. Awesome! I wonder, is she trying to make amends for the Honda bumps of others? This video is also from a repeat submitter, but his other submissions were to our main channel, Wham Bam Tesla Cam. Watch this video to see a time he was featured on that channel when he tried to drag race a minivan in his Model X. Or go watch KCFan76's previous featured submission here. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week with 20 more exclusive dashcam videos.
Wham, bam, we got a Patreon, man. Please support the show.